How's it going? Dr. Ben here. Welcome to another episode of Alter Life. And today I'm talking about 4 habits that are changing my life. And I am consciously using that term changing rather than change because I am changing and hopefully so are you. And just to set the stage for this conversation, I used to think that habits were all about just doing things, just discipline and just doing things over and over again to create a quote unquote good habit. And then I learned that habits are really about identity. So, and that really shifted everything. Rather than relying on willpower and force, I just focused on who I want to be. And then the habits naturally followed that. So, you're either consciously or unconsciously creating the person that you are becoming or living into. So, the point of this conversation is to hopefully gain deeper insight into how you can consciously take the actions to create the identity and become the person, hopefully with authenticity and integrity of who you want to be. And before we dive into the 4 most powerful game changing habits that I've experienced in my life in recent times, I do want to make a note that really I believe that the most powerful habit, above all, which kind of supersedes everything, is the nature of our thinking in general. And of course, that's a huge topic that I look forward to covering more in depth in another time. But simply understanding what your thoughts are and what your thoughts aren't, and really learning how to not be controlled by your thoughts, not taking your thoughts seriously is really, really powerful. So we'll talk about that more in the future. And also, before we dive into the 4 habits, we've got a new kind of structure of this podcast. I've got a few segments interspersed in the episode to break things up. The first one is a quote of the week. And this quote is, of course, pertaining to habits. This is from James Clear. Every action you take is either a vote. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. And like I kind of alluded to in the beginning of this episode here, that really changed everything for me. And this is, of course, from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. And I have to admit that I saw that, on the shelf. I don't know when it came out, but I saw it, it was on all the bestsellers. And I'm like, oh, just another habit book. And also I've kind of generally resisted the quote unquote self-help categories in the bookstore. But I finally gave in to my call to see what this book was all about, see what the craze was all about. And I have to admit, it was definitely a really enlightening book, and it helped me kind of relate to habits and identity a little bit better. So the essence, which is encapsulated in this quote, every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. When you really get clear on who you are, for example, and we'll talk about these habits for me. I'm a good father. Then, like, what does a good father do? Versus like just trying to, put down my phone and do the quote unquote right thing more of the time and be more present with grace. When I just focus on like, hey, I am. And when I truly believe I am a good father, and maybe you don't quite believe it, but I want to be a good father, at least like get that far, right? Then what does that good father do? So the goal is to come into alignment with that ideal identity that you are creating, who you are becoming. And of course, doing so with as much authenticity and integrity as you can. So now let's get into the 4 habits that are changing my life. The first is cold water. And this is a popular one. And I don't need to harp on the physiologic benefits of getting in cold water. And actually, I just got a cold plunge, like an actual plunge that I get into full body and everything, just over a year ago when we moved into our new home. But until then, for the last, I don't know, 9 years at least, pretty much every time I take a shower, I at least end my shower with cold, if not just take a pure cold shower, oftentimes in the summer. And this, again, there's numerous physiologic benefits that I geek out on and will love to discuss in future episodes potentially. But the main reason why this is on the list of the kind of game changing habits in my life recently is because it's really just a symbolism of mental fortitude, just consistency, and specifically consistency with doing something difficult, doing something that is challenging, that is stressful. And the point here is that if you're not familiar with the idea of hormesis is essentially a small, calculated stressor that you expose yourself into for an adaptive, beneficial response. And hormesis is often talked about in the terms of physiologic adaptation. And of course, those things do exist, but I do it for the psychologic hormetic effect, for the boost in clarity and the boost in confidence. And really, when I put myself in that scenario of difficulty every day, then it makes everything, you know, re- relatively easy related to the cold plunge that I do usually in the morning. Sometimes first thing in the morning, but I have to admit, winter here in Colorado, getting into the cold plunge when you're like rolling out of bed, breaking the ice. I usually like to wake up and be a little bit active first. Oftentimes get in the sauna and stuff, but I have to admit, it doesn't get easier. I think some people talk about getting in a cold plunge, getting in water, getting easier. But the point is, and the reason why it's on this list is that it doesn't get easier. So doing something that's legitimately difficult every single day in a calculated, controlled sort of way, just for a couple minutes, can be really beneficial for, building psychological strength and fortitude. So that's what I do. And that's an encouragement for you as well. All these habits, of course, I'm not like telling you what to do. I'm not saying, oh yeah, everyone should do this. But what is one thing that you can do that's always going to be a little bit of a challenge, always going to be a little bit of a difficulty that you can persevere through, push yourself through, and really feel better on the other side, feel stronger, feel more clear, feel more healthy, feel more confident, whatever it might be. So the practice is getting in cold water, or everyone has access probably to a shower. So getting in a cold shower or just ending your shower with cold and doing so for as much time as feels uncomfortable, as much discomfort as you can tolerate. All right, now moving into habit number 2 that has really been a game changer in my life, and that is eating fresh fruit. This is a more physical, nutritional habit, eating fresh fruit, and specifically eating fresh fruit alone, on its own, without, nuts and seeds and beans and rice, and just like focusing on a quote unquote mono meal of fruit. So you could have like a fruit salad, and that's totally cool. You chop things up and mix things together. But what's even better, in my experience, for the body is just focusing on one singular fruit. And lately, for me, it's been citrus fruits. Chopping up like 6, 8, 10 oranges and just going to town. And of course, the great thing about fruit is it's super rich in vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and other healing phytonutrients and fiber and water, and specifically the water that is optimal for your body to penetrate into your cells and to fuel you and to hydrate you on a deep, deep level. So I like to enjoy fruit not first thing in the morning, but as quote unquote breakfast, also oftentimes as lunch. Sometimes I just eat fruit until dinner. That's not uncommon. And if you are thinking, oh my gosh, like 8 to 10 oranges, just fruits, that's a lot of sugar. Get over it. You let go of your fruit fear especially when you are eating fruit in the context of just fruit. If you're having a glass of orange juice, next to bacon and eggs, maybe not the best combination. And, if you're new to the conversation of metabolism and insulin resistance, we've got numerous episodes back in the Alter Health days that you can dig up, or I can, find them for you. If you're curious, just reach out. If you're like, hey, help me understand how fruit is not terrible. But long story short, there have been extensive scientific studies done that have shown that there is no upper limit to the healthy intake of fruit consumption. The more fruit, the better. And specifically, and particularly in the context of, again, just eating fruit on its own when it can be most optimally digested. And on that note, fruit does digest super rapidly. So not only is it energizing and nourishing and hydrating, but it's also super easy on the digestive system so that, you can kind of use that energy for your life rather than using that energy for breaking down heavy, difficult to digest foods. So fresh fruit on its own, the practice for you is to go to the grocery store, stock up, do something, stock up on whatever you're called towards. And of course, on this note, also choosing fruits that are maybe seasonal or in some way sort of local-ish is, of course, something to consider as well. All right, now let's shift gears out of our habits and into another segment on the Alter Life podcast, a new segment, and that is the lesson of the week. All right. This lesson of the week comes from, and I'm sure a lot of the lessons of the week will come from my daughter, Grace. And this lesson is asking for help. Grace is almost 2.5 years old, and she has gotten really good at asking for help, which is super important because Grace, I don't know where she got it from, but Grace likes to do hard things. She likes to challenge herself. She always likes to be on the edge of her capabilities physically and in all ways. And so, she's struggling with, oftentimes struggling, but she has recently learned how to be grounded, sometimes, not always, and say, help, please, help, please, dada, help, please, mama, please help. And it's so cute. And of course, like as a father, of course, I want to go there and help her. And having that kind of relationship of being on the other side of help, giving the help is such a great reminder of, hey, it feels really good to give help. So I always thought that asking for help meant that I was like putting people in a weird, bad position to, go out of their way to try and help me with things. And I was going to be a nuisance or something. And maybe I will. And maybe people will say like, no, I can't help you right now with that. But the fact of the matter is asking for help is for sure an act of vulnerability. And being vulnerable is a strengthening act as far as I see and as far as research shows. And also being vulnerable also invites a deep connection with someone else. And specifically when you receive the help that you ask for, and having that sort of exchange is something that really is lovely. And I think more people should be doing, asking for help, giving help, receiving help. And it's really not a weakness, right? It's actually, a, you know, giving you strength and building muscles in various ways. And yeah, so that's something that I've been doing a little bit more of here and there, and just opening up to the idea of, hey, I don't have to figure everything out myself. I'm not living on a deserted island. I'm living in a family and in a greater community and in a greater wide world with unlimited resources and wisdom and ideas. And I can tap into that and we can connect and collaborate. And it feels good to both. It feels scary to ask for help, but it feels good to give help. And it also feels really good once you ask for help and then receive it. All right, so don't forget to ask for help. Now on into habits 3 and 4. Okay, habit number 3, this one also comes from Grace, comes from being a dad, and this is to play regularly. Habit number 3 is to play. This is a lesson from Grace as well. And I always thought that, playing was something that you do as a kid. And frankly, I liked to play, but I feel like once I grew up, if you will, once I got older, it was hard to go back and play. I felt weird or awkward. And sometimes and then of course I slid into like responsibilities and, oh, I need to do that. No, I don't have time for that. And frankly, life can be and is quite serious. So playing, in my experience, has totally shifted the perspective of life, shifted my priorities. And again, this is super helpful to have a playmate at my side almost all of the time to remind me to shift my perspective towards maybe what matters most. And that's my health, my well being, my sanity, my groundedness, my joy, my peace, and not the things that we might get distracted with our work or our, you know, watching the news or media or this or that. Sometimes it's really helpful to just gain perspective of what matters most in life. And that's what play can truly do, in my experience. And of course, play reconnects us with our innate curiosity and joy. And I have found it really helpful to help me get unstuck. If I feel like I'm kind of overthinking things with, a work project or something like that, usually I'm not going to like think my way into an answer, but if I can play, then I can forget about the quote unquote issue or problem. And then usually when I'm present in that sort of flow, then the answer or insight comes to me. And that's of course, the brilliant thing of life and the universe and tapping into this divine wisdom that we have access to. So don't forget to play often. And if you don't have a kid, if your kids are grown up, or if you are not a parent, then find something that you truly enjoy. Find something that is not work. Find something that's not hard. Find something that allows you to like totally get immersed in. When I was a kid, it was Legos. It was building stuff. Hours would pass and I would just be like in one place with the blocks. So find something that allows you to be in the present moment so that time just passes by and then you go out and you're like, oh, like cool, and you have a new perspective on life. And this is not, and what does not play. I think a lot of people might think, oh, well, I feel good when I scroll Instagram or, doom scroll this or, binge watch this series. I don't think that really counts because usually on the other side of that, it's not like, oh, like, like I've gained so much perspective. Usually, I don't know, you be the judge, you be honest and a judge for what that is to you. But my recommendation is to be more tactile, be more present, be more maybe, grounded in nature, these sorts of things. Get lost in play. And habit number 4 is gratitude. I know this one's also cliche, but gratitude has been a total game changer. And I have to admit that my quote unquote practice of gratitude has also been totally refined since being a dad as well. A lot of these habits and lessons have come through parenthood. And it's helpful to understand that the human brain just evolutionarily is wired for quote unquote negativity. We're wired to avoid issues. So in order to avoid issues, we've got to find the issues. So we're always wired to look at and look for the issues. What's wrong so that we can escape what's wrong. And of course, that is not really advantageous in our world today. Of course, we need to be mindful of what could go wrong. But what's so much better for our health, our well-being, and also the state of our body and our nervous system is to focus on what's good. And this is where gratitude comes into play, right? So gratitude rewires the brain, literally. It boosts dopamine and serotonin. It strengthens positive neural pathways. It reduces stress hormones and cortisol and these sorts of things. And it reprograms the reticular activating system, which is a part of the brain that kind of is associated with habits. So it helps you to break habits by breaking the habit of negativity. So it's kind of this global habitual center of the brain. And the, of course, interesting thing with gratitude in my experience is that and this has to do with the function of the reticular activating system, when we feel grateful, we naturally find more things to feel grateful for. So gratitude brings us more gratitude. You think like, oh, I'm so grateful for this, I'm so grateful for that, and then that invites more of those sorts of experiences into your life. So my practice with gratitude, again, involves my daughter Grace. When we're going to bed each night, we call upon the angels, the angels of sleep, the angels of health, and the spirit guides, if you will. And also we recall all of the things over the course of the day for which we have felt gratitude. And of course, there's always so much. And sometimes sometimes it's also life itself. Of course, family and friends and toys and nourishment and our home and nature and all the inspiration. The list goes on and on, always. And so this is a practice at the end of the day. And what I've been doing, or trying to do more so, is kind of bookending the day with waking up and thinking of all of the things that I'm grateful for. And then, of course, at the end of the day, going to bed and thinking of all the things that I'm grateful for. So bookending the day with positivity is really super supportive. And again, it used to feel so forced, the quote unquote practice of gratitude. I'm sure you've tried it or been exposed to it. Just write down what you're grateful for. And it's like, oh, like, I guess I'm grateful for this. But the thing is, like, when the hack, if you will, when you are doing that, when you're thinking about the things that make you grateful, make you feel grateful, really truly allow yourself to feel the gratitude. And back to my daughter Grace, this becomes very easy and natural for me when I'm in the presence of Grace, because I'm so freaking grateful for her and for everything. So the hack is to really allow yourself to fully feel the fullness and the extent and the prominence of that strong emotion of gratitude. And here's a little bonus add on to the gratitude. So, of course, I was talking about kind of the bookend of the day, a few moments in the morning, a few moments in the evening, but then you go about your day. And I'm sure as you go about your day, like, oh my gosh, you look out the window and there's a deer that walks by, or like, oh my gosh, you caught all the green lights when you're on your way to work, or oh my gosh, like there's a rainbow over the hill. And allow yourself to fully appreciate the beauty and the perfection that's unfolding for you in your life. Allow yourself to be totally in that feeling. That is, and when that happens, and that has been really a game changer as well. And back to Grace, she really helps me to be fully in the moment. I could go on and on with all the lessons that she's bringing forth for me to remember. But gratitude is a big one. And gratitude, again, in my experience, really brings more gratitude, or brings more things and feelings and experiences for me to be grateful for. All right. That's habit number 4. And I've got a bonus habit for you. And I know a lot of you maybe have heard about this one, but if you haven't, now's the time to try. The bonus habit is drinking Green Force every day. Green Force, for those of you who don't know, is the new product that I developed. It's a greens powder. And Green Force is really unlike any other greens powder I have ever found on the market. And what makes it unique is its structured, dialed formula of just 7 superfood ingredients that have specific intentions in the formula to support detoxification and metabolic health and general longevity as a result. And you can try it for $10 off with the code ALTERLIFE. So you can get a Green Force bundle, a month supply, plus a little electronic whisk and a jar to drink it from. Nice glass jar for just $39, free shipping throughout the United States. So go to www.visfoods, that's visfoods.co, to try Green Force. And hopefully this will up-level your nutrition, your hydration, and your health. So the last segment of the podcast is Challenge of the Week. And this, of course, flows really well into from our 4 habits here. So the question for you, as you think about the challenge of the week that you want to move forward with is which one of these habits kind of resonates with you? Which one is like, oh yeah, I got to get a little bit more of that. I got to get a little bit more of this. Yeah, so pick one and go with it, and don't overcommit. I think that a lot of people, when we think about habits and challenges, we just go too hard too fast, and then we burn out. For example, if you were to commit to doing all of these things every day, then you might do them every day for a day or two or three, and then you don't get in the cold plunge, and then it's like, oh shoot, I didn't get in the cold plunge, and then everything kind of, okay, well, I didn't do that, so rather than going big and fizzling out, start small and build. That's a good kind of relationship with habit change and behavior change and taking on new challenges. So my challenge to you is to pick one little thing and do it for the week. Don't do it for the month or for the year. That's a little too much. Just do it for the week. Try it out. Try it on for size, see how it feels, and report back. Leave a comment in the on the YouTube or in the comment section wherever you're looking at this or listening to this, and let me know what your challenge is and how that landed. Also, let me know any sort of insights or ideas or new thoughts that have come from this episode, or maybe some habits that you have been engaged with on a regular basis that you have felt have been game changers in your life. So as we're tuning out for this week, remember that every habit you do is a vote for the person you're becoming. So the question is, who do you want to be? Who are you becoming? Choose wisely. And let me know what you're implementing. DM me, send me an email, leave a comment in the comment section. And if this episode is resonating or has resonated, feel free to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and also share it with a friend, share it with someone who needs a little dose of inspiration and support. And until next time, keep thriving.